Chaim just went to get Yitzchak Eilenberg from upstairs.
Yeah.
This was, what's his name?
Chaim went to get Yitzchak Eilenberg.
Chaim, right.
11 with Yitzchak.
11 altogether.
With Yitzchak, yeah.
Is that the right number of guys? Right, so we're turning
Kopei Shvat, Hatoshin Samach Tes, Shir Klali, the Rabbi Gafni, Parshas Mishpatim. It doesn't have the, so just put it on the table.
It doesn't have the thing.
So if you just put it on the table, it'd be better. If you put it in the table, it'd be better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so we're turning to Parsha Mishpatim, chapter 'Chapter Kof Gimel, Pasik Zayin. The name is Pasik Shet. Chapter Kof Gimel, Pasik Shet. So we'll start with Pasik Zayin as a sort of a lead into the inning. Right, so the Pasuk says, that you must distance yourself from a Dvar Sheker, from a matter of not truthfulness. Dvar Sheker Tirchok, V'noki v'tzadik al tareg, you mustn't kill somebody who's clean, has been proved right or proved correct in his judgment. Ki lo yatzdik rosho, ki somebody who's really the real Rasha in the matter is I will already, the Abish says I will know how to punish him, but you mustn't punish somebody who's not the real guilty man, even if you didn't find the guilty man, because I will, in other words, don't hurry to make somebody guilty because you want to somehow or another be yotzid for me. That Abish says he will know how to look after the evil man. And you must not take bribery. You must take bribery money. Ki ha-sheichad yaver pichim. It causes open-eyed people to become blind, normal seeing people to become blind. V'yisaleif divrei tzadikim, and it misread or it makes crooked. It misleads the words of the righteous. I mean, that's what would appear. We'll see that that's not exactly the pshat. So you mustn't take bribery because of those effects that it has. So comes along Rashi. Rashi says, "V'sheichad loy sikoch." You mustn't take bribe afilu lishpeit emetz, even if you intend paskening the truth. In other words, that even if the person who belavoki in the mishpat is really zakai, he's really to be given the benefit of the mishpat, he's to be made the beneficiary of the mishpat, even if you understand that that is in effect the right thing, al pidin, nonetheless you mustn't take money in order to paskin that din. Nimcha, Lafi said that you would anyway have paskin what is the emes. I mean, you would have anyway paskin what is true according to that facts and those inyonim of the Eidos and all the inyonim witnesses. Everything leads to the psak din, which is in effect true. And you've taken sheichad in order to paskin that. So Rashi, that is the issa here, not to take sheichad. Sheharei, why? Maybe not to take sheichad means you shouldn't take bribery in order to twist the din from the right. You shouldn't take bribery to misread or to mislead the din. But the first is Rashi, that can't be the pshat. Sheharei kedei lahatoi es hadin, to move the din aside, in other words, to push it in the wrong direction. Nema kfar, we've already been told that. Now the truth of the matter is we haven't yet been told it, but it's already been written in the Torah. That's what we have to say, because it's a pasuk in Shoftim, which is in Seder Shoftim, which is in Sefer Dvorim. It's right near the end of the Torah. Anyway, it's written over there, Sater Mishpat, you must not fadrei a judgment, you must not turn a judgment away from the Emersa Psak. In other words, you mustn't misinterpret a din. If you're Dayanim sitting in a bed din, and the din comes in front of you, you mustn't paskin crookedly. You must paskin what is the Emersa din according to that particular fact and the evidence, etc., etc. So therefore Rashi said that if the whole Indian, the whole Issa in the Torah of taking bribery is just to stop you twisting the din, then that's got nothing to do with bribery. You're not allowed to twist it in, because that's a separate Oisasa in its own right. That's a separate Issa b'fnei atzmai. You're not allowed to twist it in. So if you took money to twist it in, my nafkamina, you still twisted the din. And remember, that's not the emissary Indian of taking sheikhad or not. We have to say that taking sheikhad is a separate Indian in its own right. So therefore Rashi said taking sheikhad is even if you intend paskening the emes, and yet nonetheless the person who's going to be the beneficiary, he came along and gave you money in order to just be sure that you were going to pasken his way, and you happen to look at the din and be ma'ayin in all the inyonim, and you see that he happens to be right, and nonetheless you take the money. That is the issa in the Torah of loisikach sheikhad. Not to have to do with being mateder the din, because that's a separate din in its own right. Very fascinating psak on the part of Rashi, that the Issa here of Loi Shikach Sheikhad is, and if you look over there in that passage where it's written Loi Sater Mishpat, it writes over there and show Loi Sater Mishpat, you mustn't dray it in, and then it's written a further in, Loi Tikach Sheikhad, a separate in, not to take Sheikhad. We see then that Rashi learns that the two in Yorim, and he derives it from the psukim in the Torah, that to paskin incorrectly is one thing, and to take sheikhad is an idea. I don't even say what it means to take sheikhad. You take it in order to do something. You're not allowed to take sheikhad in order to paskin the emet. Amazing statement on the part of Rashi. Yaver, Rashi says, Pirchim, it will blind the open-eyed, the afilu chacham b'toira. Even somebody who's a emes of chacham, according to the judgments of Torah, in other words, even Torah says about him that he's a chacham. V'noitav sheikhad, and he takes sheikhad, cholila, seif shetitarif da'ate olo. The end of the matter is that he will become, how do you call it, a bit crazy. Titorif daite, he will go, how do you call it, queer, he'll go crazy. V'yishtachak talmudei, and he'll forget all that he learned. V'chahei me'or eino, and the sight of his eyes, which is called me'or einayim, the lighting of the eyes, the illumination of the eyes will become dark. In other words, he'll go towards blindness. Achmoninit, blindness of pshat yaver einay chachamim. However, says Rashi, if he's a chacham, then what does it mean yaver einay chachamim? So therefore Rashi says that the einayim of a chacham are his wisdom. They show him everything that he really sees and does in life. And then first of all he'll lose his learning and his chachma, and in addition to pashtus, he'll also become blind. And then says Rashi, Salev divrei tzadikim. So Rashi says Yisalev is kitargumi mekalkel, like the Onkelos translated, that will mess them up, or how do you call it, mislead the words of tzadikim. So Rashi says that the inyan of divrei tzadikim doesn't mean the words of righteous people. but it means righteous words. Dvorim hamutstakim mishpatei emet. It doesn't mean the words of tzaddikim, but it means words which are tzaddik. In other words, words which are corrected and proper words. In other words, righteous words, the words of the Torah. V'chein tirugumei, uncle said, pisgomin taditzin yeshorim. In other words, things which are already straight and fine. That is the words of the Torah, that they're well established and well enlightened and straight path words. That's what it means, divrei tzaddikim. It doesn't mean the words of the righteous. So we should suggest that the reason why that both the Targum and Rashi hold that the words of the righteous doesn't really fit here, because if a mensch thinks in his mind that he's going to say something which is not mamish al pi Torah, then he's already not a tzaddik even before he says it out. So what do you mean by Yisalev divrei tzaddikim? Who's the tzaddik here? There's no tzaddikim here. So therefore Rashi says that we have to say it means the etzem words of the Torah. Okay, so Lefizeh, we see a very fascinating Indian here, that he's actually said a dvar emes. He actually said an Indian which l'choira is dvarim mutstakim, pisgovin chalitzin or talitzin. He's already said what is right, because he pasket the din via emes. I mean, that's the din. No, what you did, he took bribery, took money in order to do it. He was, Malo Tovim said, why is he going to turn into blind? Why is he, face was, Malo Tovim. So we have to say that it's Takya Emes. What he said is Emes. But it's a very limited Emes. And it's a Emes that if it hadn't been for the money, then maybe he mightn't have said it. Well, it's not much for that way. The truth is, it appears that that's what he decided he wanted to say, and that is the truth, but he took money. That we can imagine that even if it wouldn't have been, the case being emes, then he would have wanted money. In other words, there's some meaning here that it's true, but it's not completely true. It's true, but it's not absolutely true, because it's coming. The Avos Momen Etzloi, or auch upon him, the Avos Momen Etzloi has affected him, so that Ilu, it wouldn't be, the situation might be slightly different. He mightn't have said that. Because we know that he took money for it. Elohim Cain, there's a certain Avos HaMomen which is affecting the whole situation here. We see Lefizeh that emes has to be only when it's mitzad divrei tzadikim. It's only mitzad emes, words which are emes, purely mitzad atzmam, and that's the way the Dayan has to. He has to paskin purely mitzad v'ala. That's what the Torah says. Devarim mutstakim, and he has to say only for that reason. If he didn't, then he's lokeh sheichat, and he's been over that issa in the Torah of taking sheichat, and he'll go blind. He'll forget all he's learning. He's open to that punishment. So ask the Shaila, what is so wrong here, and what is the pshat that it's true and yet it's not? You understand? It's emes, and yet there's something very wrong about it, even though it's true. Even though he paskin the way it's written in the Torah Salachayra, he wasn't masalif the divrei tzadikim, the words which are emes mitzad atzmo, because they come from the Eibishter. He wasn't masalif them. He said them. And yet, nonetheless, he's going to cop this terrible punishment of losing all his wisdom and eventually going blind. the Shaila was you do this? What sort of an Indian is that? So if we go to the Mishnah, give up. I knew I was going to forget something. I forgot my Mishnayos. Thanks. I don't know which one is clear. I forgot. I really need the big one. Do you have a big Mishnayos anywhere down here? Mine on my table top. Anyway, we'll try to work with this. So we're turning to the Mishnah in Masechta Peyah, which is after Brachas. It's right near the beginning of Seder Zroim. Yeah, Masechta Peyah. You guys have got Mishnayos to look on?
One per table.
You don't have one?
One per table.
Huh?
One per table.
There's only one per table. That means you guys don't have the cloud.
Yeah,
But I said that you should get a few of them. I couldn't find any. But there's a big Mishnah up, so they don't have the big Mishnah. You know what the big Mishnah is? Huh? You don't know what the big Mishnah, the big Mishnah is? You didn't look for it even?
All I found was the Kahati. It is.
What about these Kahati ones?
What are you looking for? Paya?
Anyway.
Joy?
It'll take too much time. You forget it. Forget it. Okay, so give it to them.
Yeah, we have one here. We passed it already.
I have one. All right. Okay. So look on with them. Now we're turning right to the end of Masechta Peyah. Right to the end of Masechta Peyah. Right in the last Mishnah Tes, at the end of Ches of Peyah, right at the end of the Masechta. So it says like this: Mishi yesh lo 50 zuz, somebody that's got 50 zuz, who noisav and noisav bohem, and he's using them for business activities. Right, he's trying to buy schora and sell it. That's what it means, noisav and noisav. Yeah, harizelo yitel. He's not allowed to take from the public stock. How do you call it, from the public stock push?
Charity fund.
The public charity fund, right? That's gathered for the sake of all the poor people in the town. Harizelo yitel. V'chol misha eina tzorik litel v'noitel. Everybody who doesn't really need to take from the public stock fund. And he takes, he doesn't pass away from this world until he will have to come on to people and he'll have to take charity, he'll mamish be needy. And somebody who really could take and is even required to take, and he doesn't want to take, nonetheless he doesn't take from the public charity, he's going to live a long time, but he doesn't pass away from that zikna until he have the schus of having money and giving other people and helping them with his money. So we see the greatness of Shinema. Yeah, and in reference to him, the pasuk says, Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach B'Hashem, V'hoyo Hashem Mivtach. Great is the man that he trusts in the Eibishter, and the Eibishter is his trust. Literally, Mivtach. Now we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. What's a double lashon? V'chein Dayon. Similarly, a judge in a Beis Din, Shadon din emes li amitoi. He paskins the din emes la amitoi. The truth of the truth. Emes la amitoi. He will also, he will be zeichet to all these type of brachas, and he will be, ein meis min a zikna, with all the good zachen, but auch upon him, he will have this source of Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach B'Hashem V'hoyo Hashem Mivtachoi. V'chol mi she'einoi lo chige v'lo suma. Somebody who's not, a limper, chige, he's got a bad foot. or he's not blind. V'loi piser, he doesn't have either feet, Rachmanin Litzlan. V'oisa atzmei ka'echad mehem, and he makes himself like either of these. You know, he tries to act as if he's blind, or he acts as if he's limping, or he acts as if he has bad feet, v'chulu. Eino meis min hazikno, ad sheyeh ka'echad mehem. He won't pass away from all of it. He might be married, but he will eventually be like that. Rachmanin Litzlan. Shene'emar, as it is written, whoever goes looking for evil, it will come to him. If you go playing around with the evil, it will look you up. And another passage says, tzedek tzedek til doi. You must run after and rush after and chase after righteousness. What's that got to do with it? Tzedek tzedek til doi, what's it got to do with making yourself a chiga? Whatever it says, v'chol dayon, and any dayon, a judge on a beis din, shelokeach shoichad, that he takes shoichad, umate es adin, and through taking shoichad, he fadreis the din, he literally swings the din out of its right direction. Eino meis min hazikno ad she einov kehuis. Now we just saw that Rashi said, Rashi brought Azazach, Shene'emar, v'asheichet lo yisikoch, ki asheichet yaver pichim v'goimer. In other words, that even open-eyed peoples will turn, how do you call it, blind mitzadin of taking shoichat. Now here we see a couple of interesting things, apart from all the interesting pratim that are here in this Mishnah. But again, to our din, we see that if a mensch is an emes of boteach, he trusts in Hashem, be emes, then if he's a dayon, he will be done din emes le'ami. He will judge the din, the emes of the emes, the truth of the truth. And then he adds it further, that if you're a mensch what tzedek till deep, that you run after tzedek and you chase after it, you don't just wait, calmly, but you run after, you're anxious only to do tzedek, then that will affect you in such a way that if you're a dayon, you won't take shoichet to be mata es adin, but you will paskin the din correctly, because otherwise, he become blind. So here we see then that killer two inyonim or two, what you might call nuances, beneget the dayon. One is that he must rely entirely on Hashem and not turn aside for any other inyan, only for his fear of Hashem, and trust that Hashem will look after him and give him all that he needs, and that will lead him to be emesli ami toy. In appearing, it will seem that there's like two inyanim in emes. There's emes and there's emes la ami toy. And then at the end, a further inyan, which maybe it's a similar thing, and maybe it's just a similar thing, but that's telling me what is the basis of a dayon amiti. What is his whole inyan that he trusts in the Eibushter, similar to these people that they don't take stock. In other words, they reckon with no other factors, only with the Eibushter provides them and will look after them. But therefore, he's the same. He knows that if he does emes lamitoi, then the Eibushter will look after him. That's the positive side of it. The negative side of it is, if you chase after negative inyanim, then this and this is the punishment. And even if you do seemingly harmless things, you make yourself out to be something, then eventually it will chase up with you. The same with the dayan. If he doesn't go in that oiv and emes lamite, then Rachmanin Litzlan, that will be kach and kach the inyan. So we just pointed out in Rashi L'Choira that if he's mater a din, that doesn't really have to do with sheicha. Ain't was a sheichus l'sheichut. Because if you're mater the din, then b'lavok you are, you're just saying the wrong thing. You're going against the Torah, and that's an issue in its own right. So therefore we have to say, comes along the Teis of Vashonta, and the Teisa is Yontif, and some other Meforshim, they want to suggest that this Indian of Lekeach Sheichad Umate Zadin is really what Rashi was saying. In other words, that if you take money to paskin the correct thing, to even say the right thing, then the truth of the matter is you've really been mateh as a din. You've really federate the din. I've really federate the din. That's the din. It's got nothing, just like if you take shaitan, it has nothing to do with even a hatis. So he said the emes. What's it got to do with the fact that he took money? And the other way around also seems to be the same. So therefore, says the Tesis Yontif, he says that since he didn't do it mitzad Rotzon Hashem, did he?
No.
Listen, I don't want this business of scribbling while I'm talking, okay? Either you listen or you don't. So I heard that some people were not, it wasn't to their nachas ruach that they heard that we were going to have a shiur. So you just have to put up with it. You've got it, and so make the best of it, and listen carefully, and the Eibush will help you. It's certainly better learning Divrei Torah, learning Inyanim from Musa and Chassidus, or Inyanim is certainly better than a lot of other things that you could have found to do. Okay? So don't scribble, and don't mess around, and don't slough, and don't carry on. Don't hold yourself to be some sort of victim. The Eibush will look after you, and it'll all be good. Okay? That's what we see here. So, Komta is that the matter doesn't seem to have to do with Lekeach Sheichad, like we pointed out. So therefore, we can suggest that the very fact that you didn't rely purely on the Eibishter, and you took into mind the fact that there was geld here, yeah? Well, that's called Lahates Sadim. That's called that you've already not said the emes kind how it is. That's not the Eibishter's din that you're talking, because you're satisfied, and you're pleased with the fact that you got when you got geld, and that's not called emes psak. That's not called the emes psak of the Torah. That's already you talking out of the benefit in geld that you got out of it. That's what he says, a chiddush to Teis Yontif, and that's called also lahatis adin, based on what we saw in Rashi, that lahatis adin got nothing to do with it here in emes, and therefore we have to say that the sheichad, for even paskening properly, is also called lahatis adin, and that's what the Mishnah is being mechadish, according to the Teis Yontif. And that'll be very good what it said in the positive part of the Mishnah, that if you rely entirely on Hashem and you trust in the Eibishter, then nothing will ever happen to you negatively. But you have to paskin the din emes la'ami toy. In other words, that's got to be a double emes. It can't just be emes. It's got to be emes la'ami toy, and that'll add up very nicely with the end of what we saw in the Teis Yontif, that he paskins anyway the emes, but he doesn't do it mitzad the emes. It's not mitzad the emes. And if it's called lahates hadi. And they stayed in the Teis Yontif. Be'erach, obviously the Teis of his beer. Das Achidish, I see that here the Mishnah bases it, Baruch HaGeva Asher Yiftach B'Hashem V'Hoyo Hashem Miftachoi. Look at it's a double lashon. Baruch HaGeva Asher Yiftach B'Hashem. What does it mean V'Hoyo Hashem Miftachoi? Hashem will be his trustedness. I mean, he's trusting in the Eibishter. Hashem will be his trustedness. Came along the Baal Shem Tov as well, it's a famous beer from the Baal Shem Tov. And he said that in every relationship between you and the Eibishter in trust, there's like three entities here. There's the Boteach, and there's a Batuach, there's the one that you trust in him, and that's the Eibishter, you're trusting in him. And then there's the medium, how it all works between you and the Eibishter. Dahainu, the Eibishter makes some sort of a sibah that you get good things, or you get what's proper for you, or what's best for you, and that's called you trust in Hashem that He'll do only the best for you, He'll give you only the right and best things for you in life, and the Eibishter makes a kli by which it's done, and that we would call the miftach. In Lashon Kodesh, that's called like the emtsai in which you trust. You really trust in Hashem, but yeah, you have a certain emtsoi in the middle which Hashem will use, and that'll bring you to your benefit, that'll bring you to the benefits which He wants to give you. And that's called a mivtoch. For example, if you make with an insurance company, lahavdil, maybe you don't shoot up while we're learning Torah. It's you make a policy with an insurance company, and you're the votee, you trusted these guys. I don't know how much you can trust them, but they're called the ones you're trusting in, which is not good, Kemuran. And then the policy, the whole thing with all the rules and all the laws and all the big papers they give you with all the stamps on them, with all the Geschäften, that's called the mivtoch. That's like the agreement and the way it's going to work, if it needs to work. So, similarly, you are trusting in Hashem. Hashem is the one you're trusting in, and then He's got these things in between, which are the kelim for which He brings you the thing of your blessing and what's good for you. That's the inyan from mivtoch. Said the Baal Shem Tov, the pasuk is telling me a gewaldige chiddush, that somebody who's an emes boiteach, then he says, "B'hoyo Hashem mivtachoi." He doesn't need a kli in the middle. By him, the Eibush himself is the kli. He doesn't have to have any kli in the middle. He just trusts in Hashem so much that it even looks impossible. He can't see any way that anything could work. He nonetheless trusts in the Eibush, and the Eibush himself will be the mivtoch. And therefore, Baruch HaGever Hashem Tach Hashem. He trusts in Hashem. V'hoyo Hashem mivtachoi, like the insurance agreement in the middle, the kli for which it's going to come, is also the Eibush. So where do we see an example of that? You guys have already remembered, but the trouble is you maybe remember these things only with some sort of clouded clarity. But you already learned it when you get to Yosef HaTzadik. When Yosef HaTzadik was in prison, and he'd already been there for 10 years, and he met up with the Sarah Amashkim, and he told him that he interpreted his dream correctly, that he was going to be reinstated by Pare. And he said, "Listen, when you be reinstated by Pare, mention me to Pare." Right? Comes along Rashi, and Rashi says, well, we find that Yosef sat 12 years in the prison. He sat an extra 2 years over and above the 10 when he spoke to the Sarah Mashkim. So Rashi says, for worse, because he shouldn't have trusted in the Mitzrayim and in Bosav Adom, Beklav, and in Mitzrayim, Befrat. He should have trusted in the Eibush. All the Meforshim. And I said, well, yeah, I think Yosef HaTzadik did a perfectly right thing, Al Pi Torah. He made a kli. You make a kli. Everything in this world has to have a kli. The Eibush blesses you through a kli. He saw the Sarah Mashi was going to meet up with Pari. He made a vessel. And he asked him to be his vessel through which the divine bracha and the divine visitation of his trust would meet him. So people say, well, it all depends who you. Yes. Huh? And if you're somebody on Yosef HaTzadik's Madrega, the type of Madrega and Elkus that Yosef HaTzadik was, then you shouldn't need any kli at all. As far as you're concerned, the Eibush is your kli. And when you don't see right at this moment how it's going to happen, that you're going to get out, but you just know, and you're batua for sure, that it's just going to happen. You're going to get out, and you leave it all up to the Rabbeinu Shul. You don't need any. He's your talk. He's the whole kli through which it goes. And the Friedrich Rebbe teaches it. We say in the Tilim, in the part of Rishonim, in the famous Tilim order, which is a Nigan. Nigan, that we say over there, Hashlik al Hashem, Yehovcho, v'hu yichalka, throw on Hashem, chocolates, throw cast heavily on Hashem all of your needs, and He will look after you. He will, sustain you, or give you all you need. And it's written over there, hu yichalkalecha, Russian kalkala. Like, if you look at the word kalkala, with coughs, not with coughs, with coughs, yeah, then that's like 2 words, 2 times clear. It's like kof lamed, kof lamed. So the Friedrich Rebbe teaches in the Likutei Dipurim, and he says that means that normally speaking, yeah, you have the Eibush and you need a kli. And he said, well, who are you, Chalkalecha? He's everything by you. He's your kli and he's him and everything. Else is the only kli here is the Eibush. And as sein Emes B'toch. I say, state the pure. That's what the Mishnah is saying, that a Dayan, he has to rely completely on the Eibishter. And some Mephoshim point out, you're a Dayan on a Bezdin. Yeah, I mean, these guys, some of these guys are Shirim, or they're important knobs, or they might be people with little militias, or, who knows who these guys are. You know, they come in front of the Bezdin, and you saying, oh, you got to pay him, and so easy. I'll get this Dayan sometime, I'll pay up, what can I do? I came here, but one time I'll take it out on him, or I'll settle scores with him one day, etc. So it's brought down in SHK Mishpatim. Therefore, we're told you have to trust completely in the Eibishter and not be concerned what might come out. You got to say only the Indian Kamoshu Al Pi Torah, and I feel you say the Indian Al Pi Torah not because you have anything by that, or purely because that is the Eibishter, and then you can end up with him in a way that he's completely and utterly he's your only Indian Bedorah. And that's what Rashi said. If you paskin for guilt, even what the Eibishter says, doesn't is the Indian. That's not V'hoyo Hashem Tachoy. And that's not Baruch HaGever Hashem Tachoy. Does the Stam was he said what happens to be right, but he ula kach sheicha. And that's the issue from the kichat sheicha letters. Philip close for now. If a miller does it a pshat, call a dayan loikeach sheicha. He's over the issa from sheicha lahatis umata es adin. He's mata the din. In other words, not he's just stumped for raise the din. That's it. Issa b'fnei atzmai. Well, he said the Rashi's right. No, he's then he took it in order to say the truth, but he said it not mitzad v'hoy Hashem miftachoi, and not mitzad emes li amitoi. What Lafi said, nimta, that there's emes and there's emes l'amitoi. There's truth and there's truth to the truth, or truth of the truth. Chatzal Shalom, was it the Biyu visit? Was it a tight emes l'amitoi? So that lotion that occurs here, Kol Dayan Shadan Din Emes Lamite, is a common lotion in Shas. It occurs in several places in the Gemara, and also in the Yalkut and in other places, Madrashi Chazal. We find it, this expression, Kol Dayan Shadan Din Emes Lamite. Now you guys have already met up with it. Now it's hard to have any tightness to that you don't remember it, because these Rashis are very long and very complex. And last week's parsha, Rashi brought it down. But he brought it down in a very different way than it's usually brought, Rashi. And oddly enough, we're not going to be able to go into that because that's a bit of another issue. But Rashi brings it down in reference to Yisrael putting Moshe Rabbeinu in a correct light of good Eiter. He gave a special Eiter to Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's written over there that Moshe Rabbeinu sat down and he was done as Kol Ha'am Mitboikad Adera. He was sitting and judging the people who had come with all their tainas and their yonim, and he was paskening, the Zakah, the Chayav, Al Pidin, Mitboikad Adera. From the morning to the evening. So comes along Yisrael, and Yisrael says, "Chaim, my dear son-in-law, you can't take that on us too much. You ruin yourself in Novel, V'Tivol, also the people also get all formatted. Everybody's going to be formatted. People standing for hours and lying and waiting all day. Maybe they'll get a short din Torah with Moshe Rabbeinu. And the father, Yisrael gave his famous Eiter, didn't he? Wrong. You're going to ask yourself later on in life, believe me, I don't want to paskin on anything which is not din emes lamita. Later on in life, you're going to look back and say, what is an yeshiva? What a shame I slept in those classes. If I'd only been awake, I'd only just made an effort. That's what you're going to think. It's that's where it is in life. Not chulila I'm paskin anything about you. I'm just saying, in a happy way, you'll think back and say, oh, God, what a wondrous opportunity I had, and I used to shop. So don't do it. Comes along Rashi over there, Yisroi says to Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, you have to divide up the responsibility. You have to take Sari Meyos and Sari Chamishim, and they should all jump. And the truth of the matter is, he said you shouldn't really do anything like that. Only if it's something really special, they bring it to you. But let them take all the. They have to be saying a better. They're going to be very upright and righteous peoples, and so on, and so forth. So comes along Rashi over there, and he says that he was done. Mina boika ad ho'erev. So Rashi says, Chief Shalom came mamish mia boika ad ha'erev. Rashi says, Elamai, that kol adayin shedon din emes lamitoi. That is what Rashi. Ki ilu afilu sha'achas or afilu miktas miayom. Ma lelova kosu ki ilu loma toira kola yud. That is what Rashi. Now that doesn't occur not in the Gemara, not in the Yalkut, in the Azal Ocean doesn't occur, and that's a tremendous discussion among some of the great Meforshei Rashi. Where did he get that from exactly? That expression that if you paskin a din Torah, you sit in a din Torah a certain amount of the day, that's good you learn Torah the whole day. It's got one to do with the idea. But anyway, it says that. However, he says that kol adayin adon din emes le'amitoi. And that's based on a Gemara. First of all, it's a Gemara in Masechta Shabbos, and then in Masechta Megillah, and then in Masechta Shavuos, then in Masechta Sanhedrin and Shavuot. Quite a few times in the Gemara it occurs this expression, kol adayin hadan din emes le'amitoi. So comes along the Maharal Praga there on Rashi, and he says, what's it attached that if you've done the Torah, a din Torah, even a certain amount of the day, we have to say that Yisro was angry even about a certain amount of the day. That involves a whole big people. If Lamaisa Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't sitting b'boika adero, then what was Yisro so upset about? That's a whole big people. The Marsha and others in the Gemara talk about it. It's a whole big, tremendous shaykh. Anyway, Rashi says that if you're done din Torah you sit in a bed and you paskin, then it's like as if you learned Torah the whole day, even though Lamaisa you didn't, because you spent part of the time paskin. Says the Maharal Praga, who should do is, and he says that everything, it's an amazing, you see the Maharal Praga, he's amazing, had a conceptual amazing ideas. And he said everything is only perfect if it comes into some sort of practical gemar. If it had occurred, it comes to a shleimus in theory moving into practice. And Chassidus says the same thing. There's something that remains only theoretical, only in idea, and it doesn't become a practical thing. Lepoyo, that's lacking perfection. So I said to Maharal Praga, a person who paskins a din Torah, takes on himself that responsibility, then he's taken things what they're written in the Sfarim, and he's brought them down, and he's brought them into the world of the Maisa, and you've taken money from that pocket, you put it into another pocket, you've moved something in the world of Gashmiyas, and in all the Inyanim of Riveish B'Shar, people, and you've affected, and you've used Torah to settle the Inyanim in the world. I feel with guilt. I feel like sporting Chassidus. I feel negative the Torah and Sheker. I feel somebody was obviously not saying exactly the right thing, and you paskin in such a way that he got put aside. You've been also mavada the Sheker, with a whole amazing inya. So the Maharal Praga says a dayam, what he paskins a din, but also the shleimus haTorah, because that's brought a shleimus into Torah. And now he said a person who learns the whole day is also a shleimus in Torah. Because a whole day is like a mi boika adero. That's a whole unit in the Eivishter's measurement of the Bria. A whole day. And I remember if you learn the whole day, so just look at you guys, what an amazing opportunity you guys have in your lives. don't you?
Yes.
I'd really prefer if you could stop sitting in a sort of a drawing room meeting or something. Yeah. In other words, to learn the whole day, says a moral miprag, is also a shleimus. It's a form of shleimus because you take a whole unit in time and you fill it with Torah. It's a matter that you've brought shleimus of the Eibishter's will into the whole bria. But he hints at the fact that the Hiu Paskins has got a mile that's mamish into the bria. And therefore he says, if he actually paskins and moves a thing in the Gashmistic world, then he's got, it's like Kilo, he's got the koyach of people around the whole. He's got that shleimus of like as if we would learn the whole day. No, then he can't just sit around and say, oh yeah, I paskined it in today. Well, it's kilos if I learned anyway, I don't need to learn. No, it doesn't have to do that. But what it means to say is that he shouldn't think that he lost by sitting in the base. He didn't lose. No, that's even a mile in the surface of his learning. Pele. As they state in the Maral Miprag. Kommt jetzt again, the Maral Miprag. And he says, well, what does it mean, Dan Din Emes Liami Toi? What does that mean? If you paskin Emes and you paskin anyway, Lami Toi, where's the tide? Now, we've already hinted at a certain beer in that it could be Emes, but it's not Emes Liami Toi. So it's up to Maral Miprag. He says that there's certain times where the Gemara says an amazing thing. The Gemara says that certain inyonim come up in the Bezdin where we rely on what's called Shuda de Dayanor. We rely on their judgment. All the dinim are brought to a certain point, but there's certain financial factors that we can't really be 100% sure how, and we leave it up to the Dayan. He's got to judge in his judgment according to how he sees it, how much money to divide here and how much money to divide there, and how much to size up this matter, how much is it really worth, is it as much as what they say, or is it less, or is it more? He's got to, and that's called Shuda de Dayino. So the Shuda from Rosh Hashlachat, to throw something like to throw his card into the matter. So the Maral Miprag said, that's wonderful. I mean, that's a tremendous responsibility that's put into the hands of the Dayan. And this is the emes, if he's done the best he could and he's done. But it's not emes lamitoi, because ultimately it's according to his emes, so it's not mamish the emes of the Torah the whole way. You know, that's how he learns Pshat, din emes, lamitoi. And he said there's another case like that where, for example, a Dayan is allowed, if he doesn't have it written clearly, a sif in Shulchan Aruch, he's allowed to look in the Gemara and judge certain sugiyas, what is the general way those sugiyas lean, and he can decide according to that, even though it's not written mamish mafurish as sif. So that's called sugya da'alma, or sugya da'alma, the Gemara, Nochazochel L'Sheinas. So he can also be trusted to rely on his judgment. So once again, says the Maral, it's good and we accept his judgment, but it's not mamish emes la'amitoi. When it comes along Tosafos, however, Tosafos in the Gemara, Masechta Bava Basra, we'll just read it out because it's very fascinating. No, we're all right with time. Don't worry, I'm going to let you off early tonight. You don't have to worry. So we got Gemara. I brought the wrong Gemara. I meant to bring Bob Basser. Bring Bob Basser. Anybody ever Bob Basser?
It's behind.
Isn't this one here Bob Basser?
There you go, Rabbi.
No. Okay. So we're turning to the Bob Basser Daf Ches. Daf Ches on the base. And the Gemara says like this. The Gemara brings a pasuk from Daniel. It's a pasuk right near the end of Daniel. And this is about 2/3 of the way down the Omud on Daf Ches Omud Beis. And this pasuk in Daniel is talking about Tchias HaMesim. It's talking about when all the Mesim will stand up from their graves. As they state in the pasuk over there, that Rabbim Yisheni Ha'oretz Yokumu, and then immediately after that he says, V'hamashkilim yasiru kezoya harokia. And those who've been using their minds, mashkilim, well, they will shine like the shiningness of the firmament, like the heaven. Not the clouded heaven, but the heaven itself. They will shine. Notice in a sunny day there's a certain sheen in the heavens. Unfortunately, lately we've seen a lot of it. We haven't seen any clouds, unfortunately. So that's particularly in certain parts of the day. The heavens sort of give off a sheen. That's called Kezoya Harakia. But the Mashkilim, by Tchias HaMesim, everybody's going to notice them, that they're going to shine and appear tremendously illuminated and lichtig more than other people. So says the Gemara, who are they? Who are these guys? Says the Gemara, Zeh Dayon Shedan Din Emes Lamid. Well, that's a dayan that he judges a din Emes Leamito, to the truth of the truth. Machdika Harabim Kechavim Le'olam Voed, and those will be the makers of righteousness of the public. What the Gemara says, that's referring to Gaboyed Stocker. Those are people who go around collecting their stock and giving away their time to give out stock to people. They are going to be called Koichovim Le'olam. They're going to shine like stars, just like the Rakia. Good, comes along Teisha. And Teisha says, Don Din Emes Li Amitoy. So it says Teisha, Emes, the word Emes is Le'afuki Din Merumeh, a deceived din, a din which is based on deception. Afal Gav Sha'edim Ma'idim Oisei, Ein Mechatchin Oisei. In other words, we shouldn't cut such a din, we shouldn't decide it on the basis of those Eidim. Kivan She'edim Shemishakrim. Since the Dayanim know that they are not telling the truth, that they're lying. We'll soon explain it in a little more detail. That's emes. Le'amitoi shaloyatu es adin, that they shouldn't swing the din incorrectly. So Taisvus, what does it mean? Now we agree that you weren't going to scribble. That the infant din emes, says Taisvus, not a din merumeh. Now, what does a din merumah mean? Like that. A din merumah, where a dayan sits in the Beis Din, the Eidim come in, the two Bali Din are there, and the Eidim give their witness. And according to what the Eidim say, then the din would be kafaka. So everything seems to be alright. However, the dayan, with his deep insight, he sees that really these Eidim are meshakrim. He sees, and he knows, and his deeper inner sense tells him that these Eidim are lying. But he can't really chap it, because he asked, were you there? He asked a different child, were you there on that day? Did you see it? Everything they say seems to be okay. But something about his judgment of the matter tells him that they're lying. But he just can't, at this particular moment, he can't establish that. So therefore, if he goes according to the din, which is written in SHK Mishpatim, according to that Eidas, then there will be kach for kach, that will be the din. So he can say, well, I heard what the Eidim said, and I say, he stayed. Right. So that's called a din merumeh. The word emes tells me that I shouldn't judge a din like that. No good. Okay, so what is l'amitoi? Him came, what is l'amitoi? So he says, Shelo yatu l'amitoi. He said, Shelo yatu es hadin, that they shouldn't swing the din incorrectly. He said that's the second word, l'amitoi. And he based himself on a Gemara in Masechta Shvuos, even though in Masechta Shvuos, well, that Lashon which Teisus quotes is not written B'diuk, it's written slightly different. However, that's all one thing, isn't it? You say you mustn't follow the wrong Eidim. These Eidim you suspect that you mustn't paskin according to what they say. Okay, so that's emes. That's also le'amita, because if you paskin, then you're going to be mates adin. So you didn't paskin. You didn't paskin, so you were not mates adin. It's all the same thing, isn't it? Why do you say emes le'ami? Emes le'amita. And I'm not the only one who's got a shayla like that. Comes again to Beis Yosef at the beginning of his Pirush SHK Mishpatim, where he's talking about all the different dinyanim, what a dayan has to be, and he has to be a this. He has to know that he's got to be done din emes lamitoi. And he asked, what does it emes lamitoi? What does that mean? Emes lamitoi. Bring to them to Isavis. Yeah, it also tells us the same thing in Megillah. Painted them tastes, and he said, L'chera would have been enough one word. You don't need two words for that. Emes lami, what you need the second word is emes. You shouldn't go according to the deception of the alien. You should just paskin the way the emes is. So therefore, comes again the Marshua, and the Marshua, he's done in this in it. What the taste of 1 or 2 in yonim, the kibbutz tzveiza. And he says, give a cook. And some Meforshim say, maybe what it means, Shaloi Yodun Din Merume, you shouldn't take this obvious that there's some sort of deception in the Etzem Din, because the Etzem Din is fixed by the Eidim. And the Eidim, he knows there's something wrong with them. Then, it's enough one word, just Emen. As a effect of Beis Yosef, what else is there? So the Beis Yosef doesn't agree with that pshat. And Beis Yosef is another pshat. And he said, what does it mean, emes la'amitoi? He says something similar to what we saw in the Tesis Yontav. And the Tesis Yontav bring to Beis Yosef, and he doesn't really heavily disagree with him, because they're both saying pretty close to the same thing. The Beis Yosef says, let's say you're a dayan, and you're paskening the din, and it just so happens that you really like the guy that he's a zakah. You're the one that's getting the benefit of the din. You happen to really like him. And the guy that is getting that's being paskined against, you don't like him. So, kumtois, that you're having a certain nachas ruach in the whole thing. Oh, Pliny is getting my benefit, They're watching out. So the Beis Yosef said, "Das tun in seiner Zamatzu." That's forbidden to be that way. And he said, if you paskin a din in that way, you paskin emes, but you didn't paskin amitoi, because maybe if it hadn't been you might have said that. Anyway, we can't be sure about you. It's very similar to what the Tesis Yontav said about mates adin mitzat gel. Even though it's the right thing. So the one o'clock. The pictures every Rashi said. The Beis Yosef says that emes lamitoi is like two daragas. There's emes in the etzem din, but it's not really lamitoi, because you might have anyway done that had you had the opportunity. That was not mamish really lamitoi. It's not bad. I mean, this is a a chap. Comes again, Hadikot Marshua. And he says that the Beis Yosef is not right to kill it's only one Inyan. He said the Marshua says there's really 2 Inyanim here, in what Tesis says. And he says he's got another reason why he doesn't agree with the Beis Yosef, and that is because the Gemara in Masechta Sanhedrin, he says that if you are done dying, you don't done din emes lamitoi, once again the same expression, emes lamitoi, then you cause the Shekhinah to run away from Yidden, Rachman, and trying to drive away the Shekhinah from the whole Klal Yisrael. When it brings a posse there, because the poor people are straying out, and the rich people are, oppressing the poor, and a whole mass, that the Yidden doesn't want to dwell amongst Yidden when things like that are happening. So the Marsha said, from now it's mashma that Dan Din Emes Lamita has got something where you did something wrong in the Etzem Din. Not that you're paskin all right, but so-called so it's not nice, or who knows what might have been in some other possibility. Dan Din Emes Lamita means that in the end, the one who should have really got the money didn't, and it's an ishki. And if you would have been Dan Din Emes Lamita, that wouldn't happen. So that was at the Marshua. He said, Tesis is right. Why is he right? So he said, you got these Eidim, you see them, something's wrong with them, these guys are really Meshachrim. No, which then, it looks to be good if that's all I got. They're paskin, they're giving their Eidos, on that basis they'll have to paskin. What do I worry? So they're Meshachrim. Al Pitoyer, Al Pitin. So therefore, Tesa says that you got several Eidos, according to the Marsha. You can say, look, I'm not going to have anything more to do with this din. You guys go to some other, I don't want anything more to do with it. I need to select it, that's me, he said. But I go to some other place. That's one Eid. But then you're only done him as Emes. You left it only with the Emes. He said, what is done him as Lamite? That you start all over again. You say, wait a minute, you guys. Yes, I've heard what your Eidos is, and I've already given you the normal orthodox test, whether you're a proper Eidim or not, but you guys are, and he starts all over again, and he goes with all his might into the depths of the Indian, and he makes the Eidim, how do you call it, contradict himself. He makes it come out that they're telling Sheker, and then he paskins the emes din how it should really be, not according to what they said at the beginning. And it comes out another din altogether. He said, does it attach din emes liami to din emes, that he didn't listen to the Eidim, and he didn't, but he didn't just run away either. Yeah, then he went further, and he started all over again, and he made these people admit that they're evil, and they're doing the wrong thing, and then he paskined the emes din. He says, according to the emes, the situation, what they were trying to misrepresent. Yeah. So he said, does it upshot dan emes liami? In other words, there are two levels in emes, as we saw earlier. There's one in which is emes, and it's got a certain justification to it in two ways. You can paskin and get stuff out of the whole thing. You can say, well, I can't do any more. I just received the Eidim, and that's it. Or you can say, I don't want any more to do with the whole thing, and just get up and walk out to go to somebody else. Ani is nafshi hitzalti. I'm saving my own soul. I don't want to do with the whole thing. Or the third possibility is like the Marsha is Masbir. Marsha said that's what Tesis meant by saying that Dan Emes Lamite is loy bedin merumeh, v'loy yates atin. It's two madregas and two inyonim. In Kain Lufizeh, we see that Emes Lamite is like two stages in Emes, like this Emes, and then there's a further in which is the perfection of the Emes. Because you could have been okay al pidin. You could even come into the Bezdin Shumaila after 120 years. And they were saying, why did you leave that the way? I said, listen, Bezdin Shumaila, I said, he stayed in Shulchan Aruch. The Eidim tell you this. And the kosher Eidim as much as you could test them at the beginning. Yeah? And they told you, listen, this is the din in Shulchan Aruch. And I passed it about them. What do you want from me? They said, no. If you have a suspicion that they're not right, you have to do everything in your power to prove that. In the meantime, you're going to make 5 enemies, or who knows what's going to happen. That's what the Mishnah tells us here. You're going to trust in the Eibishter. Forget the whole man. Trust only in the Eibishter. I can't do it, man. And he says that what the Beis Yosef said is limited. It doesn't fit all the cases what the Gemara brings. Because the Gemara says that the poor people are shraying out that something is still wrong that wasn't fit. And we see that there's a union for emes and emes liar lamita. Two madregas in emes, two like, and it all goes back to that Rashi we brought at the beginning. Rashi says it's emes, or it's not emes lamita. Once again, the Maral Prague in that same place in Yisrael over there, in Pasha Yisrael, and he is Niknas Lein Gamkein. Why is it called Emes Lamita or Shaloi Emes Lamita? Was it the double lotion Emes Lamita? So like we pointed out, he goes into the Solin and the Dayan judged himself. That's not Emes Lamita. And then he goes on to say, what's Beklau? The whole hemshit of that lotion in the Gemara and Shabbos, that if you're done din emes lamita, if you do all the shleimas in emes, then you're nas shutav LaKodesh Baruch Hu b'Maaseh Bereit. That's the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos. Now Rashi doesn't bring that, he brings the Lashon of the Gemara, he brings another, like we said, he brings a whole other idea, Kiddush to learn Torah the whole day. The Gemara says you become like a shooter with the Eibush in the whole Maaseh Bereit. And that is written in the Gemara Masechta Megillah. So what you do is, that if you paskin a din emes la'amitoi, then you become, how do you call it, a shooter of LaKodesh Baruch Hu, b'Maaseh Bereit. What's it got to do with the Inyan from Maaseh Bereit? What's it got to do with the Inyan? So the Marshua over there in Shavuos, he wants to say that there's a certain connection, but maybe we'll leave him for the moment. And comes again the Maral Prague, and he says that what are the tides Dan Din Emes Lamite? What's it got to do with Maaseh Bereit? He said, if you are a dayon, then your mamish, when you're judging in a din, he said, your mamish going back to the whole center of Maaseh Bereit. And Rashi says at the beginning of the Torah, Bereshis Bora Eloi Kim Eisa Shomayim V'Esaoretz, and the whole creation mentions only the Shem Eloi. So Rashi, right at the beginning of the Torah, says that Ola b'makshavtei Livri Esa'ilam b'midas hadin, that the Eibishter intended creating the whole world b'midas hadin. Rosh She'ein Ha'elam Mishkayo, he saw that was too much for the world. But Besof, he was Mechaber also midas Shitef Imoy midas Rachim. Or that occurs after the actual creation. Says the Maral Mipah. Where does it occur? The Shem Havaya the first time after all the 7 days of creation. Then it's written B'Yom Aseis Havaya Elokim Eretz V'Shor. It's like a summing up at all. He never mentions the Shem Havaya for the first time. And then says the Maral Mipah, the L'maisa the Eibishter did. He just saw that like having the brios for people, it's very hard to be under the Inyan for Midas Hadin the whole time. Problem with is Midas Hadin, Emes, they got a tremendous connection. It's very hard for people to be Emes, and therefore, the Eibishter had to have a bit of Rach. And Machmanas had to also be Midas Rachim in Void. I'll be Biurim and the Rebbe Rashab in Hemshek Ranat. It's got a whole Riches of PLP, Chassidus, now Pipnim Yisayinyonim, but again, at the end of the Maim of Shemini Atzeres, with all the Riches, and he's Maksha, the Kushi from all sorts of different sides. But anyway, suffice it to say, that the Maral Prague says he became the basis of the whole world was Din. It was a innocent judgment, as it were. Bereshis Borei Elokim. In other words, that the Eibishter created the world, wanting it to be with a Seder, so you can't just have, anything that goes any old time. You've got to have with a starke Seder Alpi Din. And if he says a Pelidik is like, that therefore a Dayan is called Elokim, like we have in this week's Parsha. Elohim is called in this week's Parsha. It's written, Vayikshu, Seder, Vayikshu, Eloho, you have to take him in front of the Dayon, or Dayonim, and they're called Elohim. So there was the Maral Mipah. Why would a Dayon be called a name which is also the same name, for the Eibishter? He said, because when a Dayon paskins a din, then he's Mekayim the whole Inyan behind Sefer Bereshit, the whole Inyan from Bereshit, Borei Elokim, Eisa Shomayim, Eisa Oret, that the Eibishter didn't create the world that you should do everything which is Eila Aruchacha. Or you should just be a ganze Macher and a ganze Spitzel Lefnei Atzmacha. Now everything has to be with the Seder, Masuda, and everything has to be worked out, and everything has to fit into all the laws and judgment. It's alles mit a tremendous Seder, Bereshis, Borei Elokim. Shomayim, and we see that where Seder, where the whole Inyan of the Sheva Mitzvahs, the Rebbe demands that the Goyim should learn. Otherwise, he says, the Rebbe said the world is not a jungle. The Rebbe said it several times. The Welt is kein jungle. That's what the Rebbe said. But people want to turn it into a jungle. They don't want any Seder. And therefore, the Sheva Mitzvahs, B'nai Noach, are mechuyev to have Bati Mishpat, and they have to have Mishpat. What Mishpat means, the Inyan from Din, B'fasht. And if the whole world functions, a Dayan anyone who paskins din emes, la amite, that he does it with a genuine truth, that he goes into the emes of truth, then he supports the whole world. He's like to the point that he becomes a shutaf like Kodesh Baruch Hu b'maisa bereish. He becomes mamish a shutaf with the Eibishter in the whole makeup of an ordered world. Because he's doing what Eibishter intended b'maisa bereish, and he's doing it mamish al tzad emes, when in his gufa emes liah. I can't do it on my own, and therefore he's called on the name of the Eibishter. He's called Elohim. That's as I know. I mean, the Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin that if you do the opposite, what do? You drive away the Eibishter. You drive away the Eibishter from his world. Pink the opposite. Pink fakir. And therefore you have the poor people straying, and this one is straying, people, come on, the whole world falls into a jungle. Pink this in the rivers. And if it all fits beautifully together, however, the previous audio there, I'll pick this, what's it up shot? Why is it that the Gemara doubles up that expression? You have to look so carefully for a shot what it means. Emes la'ami. But if I come to Kayan, the Reb Marash and the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek's got it, probably in most of the Rebbeim it's possible. The Rebbe Shab's also got about it in a certain Maimah, and they base themselves on a fact, and they say that Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. So the Gemara says in Masechta Eruvin that Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai were both Galdic people. They're all Emes mentioned. No, it didn't. The halacha says the Brisa in Masechta in Daf Yud Gimel there on the base in Eruvin, and the Gemara says brings a Brisa, and it says that where you got Divrei Beis Hillel and Divrei Beis Shammai, then you should know that the halacha is according to Beis Hillel. Because they're very sort of comfortable, bottle-dicker people, and they always consider themselves to be, slightly not good people. They're all very self-critical, cast down in their own eyes. That's why the law is according to Beis Hillel. And then it says, but another reason why the law is according to Beis Hillel, because whenever they mention Beis Shammai, they put Beis Shammai first. They say Beis Shammai, and then they bring their own opinion. That's a reason why the halacha is kedivrei. Halacha is a tremendous responsibility. He said the whole reason for which the halacha is according to Beis Hillel. Look up and over there, and you'll see in the Brisa. And the Brisa says, why is the halacha according to Beis Hillel? Because they were very, very humiliated, very humble peoples. They held themselves to be slightly, improper. They were very sort of botil. And so bottled they were, when they quoted Beis Shammai, they would put Shammai before what they said. What's it got to do with the halacha being Kediv? Kedivrei, what's it got to do with it? Elamai, if you look carefully in the Brisa over there, it's written that Divrei Elokim, Divrei Beis Shammai and Divrei Beis Hillel, Eilu va'eilu Divrei Elokim Hai. Both of them are the words of the living Eibishter, Divrei Elokim Hai. But the halacha is according to Beis Hillel, Ki Noichim va'aluvim Hai. So was it attached to Divrei Elokim? Yeah, Hai. Zot the Rebbe Marash, that we find a pillar that David HaMelech was from Shvat Yehuda. And David HaMelech is Moshiach. He's from Shvat Yehuda. And Shvat Yehuda were not the ones who were supposed to paskin. We find that Yisachar, he was supposed to paskin, and same with Shvat Dan, because they were Lashon Dan, Din, certain Shvatim were allowed to paskin the halachas, but not Yehuda. Yehuda wasn't considered from the Paiskim, and yet nonetheless the Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin that David HaMelech, whenever he paskins anything, then halacha k'moisei b'chol makeh. Whatever he says, then the halacha is according to him. That's a chiddush, according to the great Meforshim, because he's from Shvat Yehuda, not from Shvat Yisrael. Yeah. Says the Gemara of Havuz, why is the halacha always according to David HaMelech? So the Gemara says, because it's written up Pasik, you have a Havaya Imoy. It's written that this, Shaul HaMelech said about David when they first brought him in. He said, oh, this little young man, he's really quite a guy. And he reckons out all of his milers over there. One of them is Yoder Nagen, he knows how to play very well. And then it's written, V'Havaya Imoy. And the Shem Havaya is with him. Shaul said about David. So the Gemara, what does it mean, Havaya Imoy? Sha'alocha k'maisei b'kol mokim. What does it mean that the Shem Havaya is with you? That wherever you paskin the halacha, every time the halacha k'maisei b'kol mokim. So it says the Rebbe Marash, from that we see that what causes the halacha to be mamish the halacha k'maisei is the Shem Havaya. Even when you have two opinions, you want to say they're both good, then you don't use the Shem Havaya, but you say Shem Elokim, Divrei Elokim Chai. Is that the Rebbe taught? So anyway, what he says very bekitzer, he said that's the difference between emes and emesli amita. And he said this is sicher that elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chayim, that they're both Divrei Elokim Chayim. This is sicher that they're both right. And what time did you order your taxi for?
9:05.
Huh?
9:05.
9:05.
9:10.
Whoa. I don't know why it was so late. So we'll have to finish this in a second. So he says, Divrei Elokim Chayim, Havaya Imoy, the Havaya Imoy, or that's emes lamita. In other words, where you've got a certain, it's taki emes, it's emes which is somewhat limited. It's Shem Elokim. It's emes, it's even tzad Elokus, but it's limited slightly. Then it's nicht emes lamita. Emes lamita is where ein oid no, but there's no matthias and there's only rots and havaya or yemot you can hold by emes lamita. And ever David HaMelech, he was so batil that havaya imoy, the Shavaya was with him everywhere he was. He wasn't limited b'klal in the eating for matthias or elam. And therefore whatever he said became the halacha k'moishe b'kol mokim. Wherever he went, whatever he said, and that's eating from Beisil because they're noichim valuvim. They were betelim b'matzias, and they said ain't noid milvada. There's no matzias in the world. Klal. Everything is only the Shem Havaya. Hoye v'viyah ke'echot mamish bottle b'matzias mamish l'gavi the Shem Havaya. And therefore halacha k'moisam b'kol mokim, and halacha means the immediate sin from the Eibishter, no matter what, where, those are the halacha. As he applied the halacha, and therefore, b'makim beis ain't beis Shammai Mishnah. It has no, wherever you have beis Shammai's words just don't enter the field. They state in the Gemara. That wherever you've got an emes, but it's not emes lamite, then that's not the ultimate psak of Torah. He stated in the mind from the Rebbe. And that's he said, Kol Adayon Adan Din Emes Lamitoi. If, like we saw earlier in the Mishnah and in the Tesis Yon, that if he gives everything away only to his trust in Hashem, and he says, I have no Matthias, only the Eibishter, and even all the Kalim, and everything that bring me anything in this world is only the Eibishter, and he's bottled by Matthias like Amre. Absolutely right. He has nothing in yon of who, then that's emes le'ah amite. Those emes la'amite ayemot. And when he paskins and now she should to come out and praise it, causes the Shechina to come into it, all the miles, all the inyonim, those are the emes la'amite. Amamela, you have to realize that is the Rebbe. The Rebbe is not just emes. The Rebbe is emes la'amite. Because the Rebbe is saying, the Rebbe doesn't have anything for himself, not he ever had, and not he does have, but he will have anything for himself. The Rebbe is just, man, it be the Klal Yisrael, Havaya, Imay, the Shem Havaya, Botil, the Zabitel, Amamela, Ein Oid Milvada. Oh, now you can listen to what he says. Because whatever he says, Halacha K'moishe B'chol, Mohim, and if you want to say, well, he's got to be David HaMelech, that's what he is. He's David HaMelech. He's from David HaMelech's Mishpatim. He's from Shvat Yehuda, K'mavur, in Derech Mitzvah Baricha. I don't want to hold you up with the whole Richas over there. But it's off. It's Lubavitch, it's not just emes. How do they all Russian say, Lubavitch? Lubavitch is not just Emes, it's Emes La'amitay. It's Emes Divrei Elokim Chayim, but it's Emes La'ami. This is the Shem Havaya, the Mitzvah Pittel Einoi, Mavatim Noichim V'aluvim. And therefore you're not allowed to be a Yesh. You're not allowed to be a whole Macha. They say, that's what the Rebbe says, and the Fari does. You got the people in the street, you say, listen, you didn't only the Eibishter put on tefillin and believe, feel about the whole politics with the ganze masses, and ein oid mil, and that means we want Moshiach now, and that means even more than that, taking yad yizgala, b'mizgala Moshiach.
Ki adinenu Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach
Ki adinenu Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach
Ki adinenu Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach
Ki adinenu
Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Ad Masa